My husband checked our joint account during the first half of the match, and for a few seconds his face told the truth before he did. He stared at his phone with his thumb resting above the screen. The television was loud enough to cover the commentators, but I could still hear Linda opening a bag of chips behind me. "What?" she asked. "Did Nora freeze your card too?" She said it like a joke. Rachel gave a quick laugh from the other end of the couch. Evan did not. I was standing beside the coffee table with my own phone in one hand and a folded contractor's estimate in the other. Marco, the plumber, had sent me a message less than a minute earlier. The deposit had failed. If we could not provide another payment method by noon the next day, he would give our Monday appointment to someone else. Evan looked at me, then back at the account. "How much is pending?" I asked. He swallowed. "I'm looking." "You've been looking." Linda leaned forward in her chair. She was wearing the coral scarf she brought out for every family event, including parties held inside her own house. "Can this wait until halftime?" she asked. "He has been looking forward to this all week." I held up the contractor's estimate. The payment for our sewer repair was declined. Linda's expression changed, but only slightly. Concern passed across her face, followed almost immediately by suspicion. "Well, why would it be declined?" I looked at Evan. That was the question. 10 minutes earlier, Linda had been telling the family that Evan deserved one exciting trip before we became the kind of couple who only talked about furnace filters and property tax. She had said it while refilling his glass. She had also said that some wives understood that grown men did not need permission to spend their own money. Evan had stared at the television. He had not agreed with her out loud. He had not corrected her either. I knew why she believed I had forbidden him from going to the World Cup. I had spent years giving her examples she could use. 2 summers earlier, I canceled a sports streaming package without asking him because the introductory price had ended. The difference was $17 a month. I noticed it during my Sunday review of our accounts and treated the cancellation like taking out the recycling. Evan came home, tried to watch a game, and discovered the subscription was gone. When he asked me about it, I told him it was wasteful. He said, "You could have asked." I answered, "Would asking have made it cheaper?" At the time, I thought that was practical. Looking back, it was the kind of sentence that made practical sound like a weapon. I had also returned an espresso machine he bought during a holiday sale. He had used his personal card, but I knew the statement would eventually be paid from our joint account, so I packed it back into the box while he was at work. I told myself I was protecting us from an impulsive purchase. He told Linda I returned his Christmas gift to himself. Both versions were true. There were smaller things too. Weekend plans I dismissed before we discussed them. Restaurant meals I turned into calculations. A new pair of shoes I questioned because he already owned 3. Money made me nervous long before Evan gave me a reason to distrust him. When I was 11, my mother once made dinner by candlelight and pretended it was a game. I found out years later that the electricity had been disconnected. I remembered the candle wax on the kitchen table better than I remembered the meal. As an adult, I checked balances because I believed bad things happened during the hours you were not paying attention. Evan knew that about me. He also knew the difference between my usual anxiety and the agreement we had made about the World Cup. 3 weeks before the watch party, our basement drain backed up for the second time. The smell reached the stairs before I saw the water. Evan was the one who moved the storage boxes. He rolled up his jeans, dragged the old rug outside, and stayed with Marco while I worked from the kitchen table. After clearing the line, Marco showed us video from the inspection camera. A section of the pipe had shifted. Roots had found the gap. Clearing it had bought us some time, but not much. He gave us an estimate and reserved a repair date. The deposit was due before the work. That night, Evan and I sat in the kitchen with the estimate between us. His quarterly bonus had arrived 2 days earlier, and we had enough in savings to cover the repair without using a credit card. Barely. He had already registered for a chance to buy a World Cup ticket. He had talked about the tournament for months. Not every day, but often enough that I knew which cities he preferred and which matches he thought might be worth traveling for. When the ticket offer came through, he showed me the total on his laptop. It was not only the ticket. There would be airfare, a hotel, local transportation, and food. Even using the cheapest reasonable options, the trip would take most of what remained after our normal bills. I said no too quickly. Not, we should look at the numbers. Not, how could we make this work? Just no. Evan shut the laptop halfway. You didn't even think about it. The sewer line is broken. It is not broken today. It backed up twice. I know, I was standing in it. I opened my budgeting sheet. He hated when I did that during an argument. I thought numbers would make the discussion calmer. To him, opening the spreadsheet meant I had already decided which answer was responsible. I showed him the repair estimate, the mortgage, our insurance payment, and the minimum amount I wanted left in savings. You're counting money we haven't spent yet as if it is gone, he said. Because we already know where it has to go. My bonus was supposed to give us some room. It is giving us room. It is keeping us from financing a sewer. He leaned back and rubbed both hands over his face. For once, I stopped talking. After a while, he said, Fine. We do the repair. I asked him to say it again because fine sounded temporary. He looked at me. We do the repair. I don't buy the ticket. That was our agreement. I did not force him to hand over his card. I did not change any passwords. I did not move the money into an account he could not reach. I believed him. On the morning of Linda's watch party, I opened our banking app while drinking coffee and saw the ticket charge. At first, I thought it might be a temporary authorization from the registration process. Then I saw the amount. The charge had posted. Evan was upstairs changing his shirt. I stood at the bottom of the stairs and called his name. He came down wearing the green jersey Linda had given him for his birthday. I held out my phone. What is this? He looked at the screen and his face tightened. I was going to talk to you. You bought it. I got another opportunity. There was a window. We agreed. I know. Did you buy anything else? He hesitated for less than a second. That should have been enough for me. Instead, he said, Can we not do this right now? Did you book the flight? My mother is expecting us. That is not an answer. We will talk after the match. I told him I was not going. He sat on the bottom step and looked exhausted in a way that made me feel, briefly, like I had created the problem by noticing it. If you don't come, he said, she is going to think you are stopping me from seeing my family again. I am not stopping you. You know how it will look. There it was. Not what happened. How it would look. I should have stayed home. Instead, I changed my shoes, put Marco's estimate in my bag, and went with him, because I was tired of being described in rooms I was not in. Linda opened the door before we knocked. She hugged Evan first. Look at you, she said, tugging the front of his jersey. Still allowed to wear team colors. He glanced at me. I smiled because Rachel was standing behind Linda with a tray of drinks, and because I had not yet decided how much of my marriage I was willing to discuss beside a bowl of tortilla chips. For the next 40 minutes, Linda found ways to mention the trip without asking about it directly. She talked about a retired teacher she knew, who had spent money traveling and never regretted it. She said experiences mattered more than possessions. She pointed out that houses always needed something, and that if people waited until every repair was complete, no one would ever leave town. Each time, Evan kept his eyes on the match. Then Rachel asked him which city the ticket had been for. Evan said, "It doesn't matter." Linda turned toward me. "See, that is what I mean." I was already holding my phone under the edge of the table, checking whether the contractor had sent an updated invoice. "What do you mean?" I asked. A person should not have to act ashamed for wanting one thing. I never asked him to be ashamed. "No, you just make everything sound irresponsible." Rachel shifted on the couch. "Mom." "What? We all know it." Evan said nothing. Linda continued. "He works hard. It was his bonus. If he wants to go to one match, he should be able to go without applying for permission." I looked at Evan. He knew I had found the charge. He knew I knew our agreement was broken. And he still let her speak as though he had come to me with a harmless wish, and I had refused because control pleased me. I could have listed the facts immediately. I could have embarrassed him in front of everyone. Instead, I asked, "Did you tell your mother we agreed the money was for the repair?" Linda frowned. What agreement? Evan picked up his drink. Nora, that is a simple question. He looked toward the television. Linda answered for him. He told me you said the trip was not happening. I did say we could not afford it. Then we reviewed the account together, and he agreed. Evan set his glass down. I said we would talk about this later. Rachel stared at him. Wait, did you buy the ticket? Before he could answer, my phone vibrated. Marco's message appeared on the screen. Deposit attempt declined. Please call before noon tomorrow if you want me to hold Monday's slot. I read it twice. Then I placed the phone on the coffee table in front of Evan. The contractor's payment failed. Linda looked from the screen to her son. Evan took out his phone. That was when he opened the joint account. He knew the price of the ticket. He knew how much he had spent. What he had apparently avoided knowing was what remained after the ticket charge, the mortgage payment scheduled for Tuesday, the insurance withdrawal, and whatever else he had booked without telling me. He scrolled through the account. His thumb stopped. How much is pending? I asked. I'm adding it. You don't need to add it. The available balance is at the top. He looked at me sharply. That was my flaw, arriving right on schedule. Even with the contractor waiting and our savings gone, I could not resist correcting the way he read the screen. I took a breath. Sorry. Just tell me what you booked. Linda stood. I don't think this needs to happen in front of everyone. I looked at her. 5 minutes earlier, she had been comfortable discussing how I controlled her son in front of everyone. Now that he might have made the decision himself, privacy had suddenly become important. Evan pressed his lips together. The hotel is refundable, he said. Rachel lowered the volume on the television. I heard the crowd noise fade into the background. The hotel, I repeated. He nodded. And the flight? I can probably get credit. Probably. I need to check the fare. The contractor's estimate felt heavy in my hand. I had thought the betrayal was one ticket, a selfish purchase, a broken agreement. Something serious but contained. Evan kept looking at the screen. I asked, how much of the trip did you already book? He did not answer. He did not need to. For the first time that afternoon, nobody blamed me. Evan closed the banking app and opened it again, as if the numbers might rearrange themselves if he gave them another chance. They did not. Linda was still standing beside her chair. Rachel had muted the television completely now, though the players kept moving across the screen behind us. How much? I asked. Evan rubbed his thumb along the edge of his phone. The ticket was $1,200. I already knew that. The rest. The flight was $780. Linda sat down slowly. And the hotel? I asked. 4 nights. $940. Rachel looked at him. You spent almost $3,000? It was not all due at once. I stared at him. He heard it too. The weakness of the sentence. The sewer repair did not care whether the money had left our account in 1 charge or 4. What else? I asked. Nothing major. That is not a number. Airport parking. The train from the airport. Couple of fees. How much? I don't know exactly. You booked it. Yes, Nora, I booked it. His voice rose on my name. I felt every person in the room turn toward me, even though no one moved. That was how our arguments usually worked. Evan avoided the point until I became precise enough to sound cold. Then my tone became the new subject. I opened my mouth to ask for the exact total. Then I stopped. The part of me that managed payroll wanted a complete list. I wanted dates, posted charges, pending charges, and cancellation terms. I wanted to know whether the train booking was refundable and whether the airport parking had been prepaid. None of that answered the first question. You agreed not to buy it, I said. Evan looked down at his phone. I thought I could replace the money. With what? My commission. Your commission is paid next month. It could come early. Has your company told you that? No. So you spent money we needed this week because money you might receive next month could arrive early. Linda crossed her arms. You always do that. I turned toward her. Do what? Make him sound stupid. I repeated what he said. You repeat things in a way that makes everyone sound stupid except you. That hurt because it was close enough to something true. I had done that to Evan. I had taken his worst phrasing, stripped away every generous interpretation, and returned it to him as evidence. But Linda was using that truth to avoid another one. He spent the repair money, I said. He spent his bonus. It went into our joint account. Because you insist everything goes into the joint account. Evan looked at his mother. Mom. She held up one hand. No, I'm sorry. Someone has to say it. He works all year, and every time he wants something, there is another emergency. The roof, the car, the retirement account, now a pipe. The pipe backed up into our basement. You had it cleared, temporarily. Linda gave a tired little laugh. There is always a reason. I looked at Evan again. He knew the line had shifted. He had watched the inspection video with me. He had carried wet storage boxes out of the basement and thrown away a rug that could not be cleaned. He also knew his mother did not know any of that. He could have explained it. Instead, he said, "Can we not turn this into a whole family thing?" Rachel leaned forward. It already is a family thing. Mom has been talking about Nora ruining the trip since you got here. Linda looked offended. I did not say ruining. You said she was making him ask permission to use his own money. That is what he told me. The sentence landed harder than anything Linda had said to me. I looked at Evan. What exactly did you tell her? He stood. Nothing. I complained. People complain to their parents. What did you say? I said you did not want me to go. That is not what happened. You did not want me to go. We agreed we could not afford it. After you opened a spreadsheet and explained why every answer except yours was irresponsible. I felt my face get hot. He was angry now. Not ashamed. Not yet. I could see the path in front of us, because we had taken it before. He would describe how I controlled our money. I would list every financial mistake he had ever made. Linda would interrupt. I would become sharper. By the end, the original decision would be buried beneath 5 years of evidence. So I did something that made Evan look up. I agreed with him. I have controlled smaller decisions, I said. Linda blinked. Rachel's eyes moved toward me. I continued before I could lose my nerve. I canceled a subscription without asking. I returned something he bought. I have acted like being better at budgeting gave me the right to make every decision. Evan's expression softened for half a second. I almost hated him for it. He looked relieved, as if my admission might carry us both out of the room. It doesn't, I said. His face changed again. It doesn't make this purchase my fault. It doesn't change the agreement. I did not say it was your fault. You let her say it was. Linda stood again. I did not blame you for the purchase. I did not know there was a purchase. You blamed me for him not going. Because he said you shut it down. I said we could not afford it, and then he agreed. Linda looked at Evan. Did you? He pressed his fingers against his forehead. I said we would handle the repair. That is not what she asked. Rachel's voice had lost its joking edge. Evan looked at her. Stay out of it. You brought us into it. I did not bring anyone into anything. Linda gave him a sharp look. You absolutely told me she would not let you go. I said she had already decided. You also said she treats your paycheck like an allowance. I had never heard that sentence before. Evan turned toward his mother. Mom, stop. But Linda had spent too long defending him to understand that he now wanted silence. You told me she checks every purchase. You said she returned the coffee machine. You said she canceled the sports package. You said you could not even take a weekend away without a financial review. Each example was real. Each one arrived without the discussion around it. The coffee machine had cost more than our monthly grocery budget. The sports package had doubled in price. The weekend away had fallen during the same month we paid for a transmission repair. None of those facts made my behavior automatically reasonable. I could have asked. I could have listened. I could have treated Evan like a husband instead of a category in a spreadsheet. But he had given Linda only the parts that made him small. And me, cruel. How long have you been talking about me like that? I asked. Evan shoved his phone into his pocket. I was frustrated. That was not my question. What do you want me to say? The truth would be useful. I am telling you the truth. You do control the money. And you use that every time you want to avoid admitting you agreed with me. He looked toward the television. The muted match continued behind us. A player was arguing with the referee while the crowd waved flags in complete silence. Rachel reached for the remote and turned the television off. Linda stared at the black screen. Why would you do that? Because nobody is watching. Evan took a breath. I need to call the airline. I handed him the contractor's estimate. He did not take it. What is that for? Marco's number is at the top. I know who Marco is. He needs the deposit by noon tomorrow. I heard you. Then call him after the airline. Linda stepped between us. He can do that later. Everyone is upset. I looked at her. The appointment is Monday, and he cannot fix it this second. No, but he can stop pretending the problem belongs to me. Evan picked up his keys from the side table. I am going outside. I followed him. Linda said my name behind me, but I kept walking. The front door closed, and the noise of the house dropped away. Evan stood at the end of the driveway with both hands on his hips. The afternoon was hot, and the jersey clung to his back. He turned when he heard me. I said I was handling it. You were leaving. To make the calls. Good. Then why are you following me? Because I need to know what can be canceled. He laughed once. Of course you do. I felt the familiar urge to correct him. I wanted to say this was not about control. I wanted to explain that the contractor needed an answer, and that available balances were facts, not opinions. But control was part of it. Not the purchase, not the lie. The way I was standing there waiting to supervise his cancellations was exactly the pattern he hated. I took one step back. You are right, I said. He looked suspicious. I don't need to stand over you. What? You know what has to happen. I am going back inside. He stared at me. Are you trying to punish me? No. It feels like it. I am refusing to manage it for you. He looked toward the house. What does that mean? It means you call the airline. You cancel the hotel. You list the ticket. You call Marco. Then you tell me what money is actually coming back and when. And if it is not enough? That is your next problem. His face hardened. Our problem. The sewer is our problem. The shortfall you created is yours. That is not how marriage works. Neither is spending $3,000 after agreeing not to. He looked away. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, You have money in the emergency account. I had expected the question. The account was not secret. I had opened it before we married and kept it in my name. Every month, a small automatic transfer left my personal allowance and went into it. It was enough to cover a few months of expenses if I lost my job. Evan knew about it. He had always called it my escape fund. I am not using it for this, I said. It is literally for emergencies. It is for job loss and actual emergencies we cannot prevent. Not a trip you booked yesterday. The pipe is an actual emergency. The pipe is funded. The money disappeared because of your trip. I can pay it back. Then do that. With what? I already told you the commission is next month. You also told me you thought it might come early. He looked at me. That is exactly what I mean. What? You make one mistake and then act like it proves everything about me. This was not one mistake. You bought the ticket, then the flight, then the hotel. At each step you decided not to tell me. I was trying to make the trip work. You were trying to make it impossible for me to stop. The sentence sat between us. Evan's jaw tightened. I could tell he wanted to deny it. Instead, he unlocked his phone. The hotel is refundable. Then cancel it. I said I would. He opened the confirmation email. I turned toward the house. Nora. I stopped. No. What? Are you seriously going back in there? Yes. My mother is in there. I know. She is going to keep talking. Then you should decide what you want her to believe. He looked down at the phone. I went inside. Linda was in the kitchen moving food into containers with more force than necessary. Rachel sat at the table, peeling the label from a water bottle. When I entered, Linda did not look at me. I hope you are satisfied, she said. With what? The party is over. I placed Marco's estimate on the table. The party ending is not the main problem. To you. Rachel rubbed the paper label between her fingers. Mom, stop. Linda closed a container. I am not the one who brought private finances into my living room. I almost laughed. Instead, I sat across from Rachel. Did Evan tell you I would not allow him to buy the ticket? Rachel hesitated. He said it was not worth fighting about. That is not the same thing. No. Did he say he agreed the money was for the repair? No. Linda turned around. He did not owe us a complete financial statement. No. He owed you one honest sentence while you blamed me. Linda's mouth tightened. You are enjoying this. That surprised me. Enjoying what? Being right in front of everyone. The answer came too quickly. I usually enjoy being right. Rachel looked at me. I continued. I do not enjoy this. It was another admission I would not normally have made. Being right had often been my reward. If a bill arrived higher than expected, if a purchase became useless, or if an expense I warned about finally happened, some part of me felt vindicated. I had confused accuracy with safety, but nothing about that afternoon felt safe. The front door opened. Evan came in holding his phone. The hotel is canceled, he said. They are refunding it. When? I asked. He gave me a tired look. 3 to 5 business days. The deposit was due the next morning. The airline? I asked. Credit, minus a change fee. Not cash? No. And the ticket? I have to list it through the resale marketplace. Linda stepped toward him. You are giving it up? Evan looked at her. I spent the repair money. You can find another way. I tried another way. No, you bought something important to you. That does not make you a criminal. I did not say it did. She is making you act like it. I did not speak. I wanted to see what he would do without me supplying the answer. Evan looked at his mother for several seconds. Then he said, Nora did not stop me from going. Linda glanced toward me. She made it impossible. No. Evan, we agreed we could not afford it. You agreed because you knew she would keep pushing. He shook his head. I agreed because the pipe is damaged and the money had to go to the repair. Linda's face changed. She looked smaller somehow, though she had not moved. So all of this about her refusing permission. I let you believe that. The words were not an apology, but they were the first clean truth he had said in the room. Linda stared at him. Rachel stopped pulling at the bottle label. Evan continued. She is controlling about money sometimes, that is real. But she did not make me buy the ticket, and she did not make me hide it. Linda looked at me, then back at him. I was defending you. I know. You made it sound like she controls every dollar. I was angry. You told me she treats you like a child. Evan glanced at me. I felt like that. Then why are you taking it back now? I am not taking that part back. The answer hurt, but it was honest. He looked at me directly. She does treat me that way sometimes. I nodded. And you let your mother use that to blame me for something you did. Yes. Linda shook her head. This is ridiculous. Both of you have problems. Why is everyone acting like Evan is the only one who did something wrong? I am not, I said. I already admitted what I have done. Rachel looked at her mother. Nora being controlling does not make this purchase mutual. Linda gave her a wounded look. I never said it did. You blamed her before you knew he bought it. I believed my son. Rachel's voice stayed calm. You believed the version that made him innocent. Evan sat down in the chair beside me. He looked exhausted now, but not in the way he had on the stairs that morning. This time, he had nowhere to place the exhaustion except on himself. He opened the ticketing site. I need the booking number. Linda walked out of the kitchen. A moment later, we heard her bedroom door close. Rachel looked toward the hallway. I should check on her. Neither of us stopped her. She stood, but before leaving, she looked at Evan. You should know something. He waited. She has been telling people Nora would not let you go. Not just me. My stomach tightened. Who? Rachel looked uncomfortable. Aunt Diane, maybe Uncle Rob. People from the family group chat. Evan closed his eyes. I had thought Linda's comments lived inside the family. Annoying, unfair, and limited to rooms where I could eventually defend myself. Now I understood that Evan had given her a story, and she had carried it farther than he had bothered to notice. Rachel went down the hallway. Evan kept his eyes closed. "How long?" I asked. He opened them. "How long what? How long have you been giving her pieces of our marriage that make me look like the whole problem?" I did not sit down and create a campaign. That was not my question. He put his phone on the table. I complained. "About what? You want a list? I want to know what people believe about me." He stared at the contractor's estimate. I told her about the subscription, the coffee machine, the weekend trip. "What else?" "The shoes." I almost laughed. "The shoes. You questioned me for 20 minutes over shoes. They were almost $300. I know how much they were. And you had just told me we needed to reduce spending. You see, you cannot even hear the story without explaining why you were right." He was correct. I folded my hands under the table. "What did you tell her about the World Cup?" "That you said no." "Did you tell her why?" "I said the house needed work." "Did you tell her you agreed?" He did not answer. I waited. Finally, he said, "No." "Why?" "Because I was angry." "That explains why you complained. It does not explain why you sat there today." He looked toward the hallway. "I did not want to have this conversation in front of everyone." "You were comfortable letting her have the other conversation in front of everyone." "I know." "Why?" He rubbed his palms against his jeans. "I do not know." I could hear the lie in the speed of it. "You do. Nora, you bought the trip because you wanted to go. I understand that part. I do not understand why you let her make me the villain after you already knew you had done it." His shoulders dropped. For a while, the only sound came from the air conditioner and Linda opening a drawer somewhere down the hallway. Then Evan said, "Because it felt good." I did not speak. He looked at the table rather than at me. "At home, I am always the irresponsible one. You know what is due. You know what is coming out. You know what every repair costs. I am the one asking whether we can buy something. That is partly because I do all the work. I know. You could check the account. I know. You could help make the budget. I know. Then what felt good?" He looked up. "With her, I was not irresponsible." His voice was quieter now. "I was the person who worked hard and wanted one thing. You were the reason I could not have it." I felt something inside me settle. Not calm. Clarity. "And you liked that?" "Yes." The answer was almost too soft to hear. He continued before I could respond. "I knew it was unfair. I knew you were not the only person who agreed about the repair. But she was angry for me, and I let her be." I looked toward the dark television. The ticket charge mattered. The failed deposit mattered. But those were numbers. They could be added, canceled, repaid, or carried as debt. This was different. My husband had found a way to turn my worst trait into shelter. I had controlled too much because I was afraid of instability. He had hidden behind that control because it allowed him to feel blameless. Neither of us had been acting like an equal partner. Only one of us had spent the repair money. Evan picked up his phone again. "I am listing the ticket." I nodded. "I am going to call Marco too." "Good." He waited, as if expecting something else. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe reassurance. Maybe instructions. I gave him none of those. He opened the resale page and began entering the booking details. For the first time since I had seen the charge, I was not checking his work. I was watching whether he would do it without me. Evan finished listing the ticket while we were still sitting at Linda's kitchen table. When he reached the final screen, he turned the phone toward me. The listing was active. There was no guarantee anyone would buy it. The confirmation only said the ticket was available through the official resale process and that fees could be deducted if it sold. Evan seemed to be waiting for me to approve what he had done. I looked at the screen, then at him. "Call Marco." He nodded. Marco answered on the fourth ring. Evan put the phone on speaker without asking me. I almost told him to take it off. Then I realized he was not trying to prove anything. He simply did not know the details of the repair appointment as well as I did. That was another part of our problem. I knew everything because I handled everything. He handled less because I knew everything. Each of us used the other person's behavior as an excuse to continue our own. "Marco, this is Evan Bennett," he said. "You have us scheduled for Monday. I have you scheduled if the deposit clears." "I understand. We had an account issue." Marco paused. "Can you provide another card?" Evan looked at me. I did not move. "I can provide part of it tonight," he said. "The rest by tomorrow morning." "How much is part?" Evan opened the banking app and checked his personal account. He had kept less money there than I expected. Most of his pay went into the joint account, and the remainder usually disappeared through lunches, fuel, and purchases too small for either of us to discuss. He named the amount. "Marco said, that is not the full deposit." "I know. I have another customer asking for Monday." "I understand." Marco was not cruel. He was running a business. A crew, equipment, and most of a workday had been reserved for us. Evan pressed his hand against the table. "If I send the rest by 10 tomorrow morning, can you hold the slot?" There was a pause long enough for me to picture Marco looking at his schedule. 10, he said. "After that, I cannot promise it." "Thank you. I will send a new payment link." When the call ended, Evan looked at the estimate. "How much are we short?" I told him. He calculated again. "The hotel refund will not arrive in time." "No. The ticket might sell." "It might. And even if it does, I do not know when the money is released." "No." He leaned back. I recognized the expression on his face. It was the moment he normally handed the problem to me. He would say something like, "So what do you think we should do?" Then I would create 3 options, reject the risky ones, and explain why the remaining choice was necessary. Later, he would remember only that I had decided. This time, he did not ask. He opened a resale app and scrolled through photographs of things he owned. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I'm listing the bike trainer." The trainer had been folded against the garage wall for almost a year. He had bought it during a period when he planned to cycle every morning before work. I had argued against that purchase too. The memory rose so quickly that I nearly said, "I told you we did not need it." I stopped myself. That sentence would not recover $1. "Will it sell by morning?" I asked. "Maybe." "That is not a criticism. I am asking." "I know." He took several pictures from his phone gallery and started creating the listing. Linda returned to the kitchen before he finished. Her eyes were red, though she had repaired her makeup. Rachel walked behind her. Linda looked at Evan's phone. "What are you selling?" "My bike trainer." She stared at him. "That was expensive." "So was the trip. You do not have to tear apart your life over one mistake." Evan's mouth tightened. "I am selling something I do not use." "You loved that thing." "I loved the idea of using it." That was the kind of sentence I would have enjoyed saying for him. It felt different hearing him say it himself. Linda turned toward me. "Are you making him sell his things now?" "No," Evan said before I could answer. She ignored him. "You have made your point, Nora. I have not asked him to sell anything. But you will not help. I am helping pay for the sewer repair. That was the original plan. With money from both of you." "Yes. And now you are withholding money you have." "My emergency account was never part of the repair budget." Linda gave me a look that suggested this distinction was dishonest. "You are married." "I know. Married people help each other." Rachel leaned against the counter. "Married people also do not secretly spend $3,000. Linda closed her eyes. "I am not saying what he did was right. You keep saying that immediately, before explaining why Nora should fix it," Rachel said. Linda looked at her daughter. "You are very comfortable judging everyone today." Rachel nodded. "Probably. I also laughed when you called Nora controlling, so I am not exactly proud of my part. That surprised me more than I wanted it to." Rachel had not defended me earlier. She had laughed because the joke was familiar, and because familiarity makes cruelty seem harmless. She did not apologize dramatically. She only looked at me and said, "I should not have done that." "Thank you," I said. It was enough for the moment. Evan posted the trainer for sale. Within 10 minutes, someone sent an offer below his asking price. He frowned at the screen. That is ridiculous. I almost smiled. There was my husband again. He had spent thousands based on money he did not yet have, but he was offended by a stranger trying to save $70 on used exercise equipment. He made a counteroffer. The buyer increased the amount slightly and said he could collect it that evening. Evan accepted. Linda shook her head. You are missing a match you might never get another chance to see, and now you are selling your equipment to pay for a pipe. Evan stood. No, I am selling equipment because I spent money that already belonged to the pipe. It was your bonus. It was our money after I agreed to use it for our house. Linda looked at me. You have trained him to talk like you. Evan picked up his keys. That is enough. Her face changed. What? You were wrong about the trip because I let you be wrong. I am correcting it now. I was defending you. I know. Stop. She stared at him as though he had spoken in a language she did not recognize. He continued. Nora and I have problems. Real ones. She has controlled decisions she should not have controlled, and I have avoided responsibilities I should have shared. But I am not discussing our finances with you anymore. Linda's voice dropped. After everything I have done for you? This is not about everything you have done. It never is when you are choosing your wife. There was the choice she wanted him to accept. Mother or wife. Loyal son or controlled husband. Evan had helped create that choice by turning every private frustration into evidence that he needed rescuing. He shook his head. I am choosing to take responsibility for something I did. Linda did not answer. We left a few minutes later. Evan drove because my hands were shaking. I did not realize how angry I still was until we reached the end of Linda's street, and he asked whether I wanted the air conditioning turned down. I started laughing. It was not because anything was funny. He kept his eyes on the road. Are you okay? No. Right. I am not going to be okay because you canceled a hotel. I know. You keep saying that. I do know. You did not know this morning. He gripped the steering wheel. I knew what I was doing was wrong. Then why did you do it? He exhaled through his nose. I kept thinking I could repair it before you found out. The sewer? The money. With a commission that might come early. Yes, that is not a plan. I understand that now. No, you understood it then. You just thought the risk belonged to both of us. He was quiet. I looked through the passenger window. Rows of ordinary houses passed beside us. Driveways, trash cans, sprinkler heads and roofs that would eventually need replacing. Linda had been right about one thing. A house always needed something. That was not a reason never to enjoy our lives. It was also not a reason to pretend necessary expenses disappeared whenever an exciting opportunity arrived. I need to say something, Evan said. I waited. I did not only buy the ticket because I wanted the match. I turned toward him. He kept looking at the road. I bought it because you had already said no. I felt my stomach tighten. So it was punishment. No, it sounds like punishment. It was more like proving I could. To me? To myself. That is not better. I know. I let out a breath. He continued. When you opened the spreadsheet, I felt like the conversation was finished before it started. It probably was. I wanted to make one decision you could not reverse. So you used our joint account? Yes. And booked the rest before telling me? Yes. The clean answers hurt more than his excuses had. What did you think would happen when I saw it? I thought I would have an answer by then, a sale at work, an early commission, something. And if you did not? I did not let myself get that far. I looked at him. That was Evan's version of not checking the balance. If he refused to look at the end of a decision, he could enjoy the beginning without feeling responsible for what came next. My version was the opposite. I lived so far into the future that ordinary choices felt dangerous before they happened. He treated tomorrow like a person who would solve things for him. I treated tomorrow like a person waiting to punish me. Neither approach made a good marriage. When we reached home, the buyer for the trainer was already asking for our address. Evan went to the garage to wipe dust from it. I stood in the kitchen and looked at the budgeting sheet still open on my laptop from 3 weeks earlier. The World Cup trip was listed in a column labeled, "Not feasible." I deleted the label. Not because the trip had become feasible, because the phrase revealed how I had approached the discussion. I had not written World Cup options. I had not written possible future trip. I had entered Evan's dream into a spreadsheet and classified it like a rejected expense report. I closed the document. An hour later, a man arrived in a pickup truck and tested the trainer in our driveway. He pointed out a scratch and tried to lower the price again. Evan looked at me through the garage doorway. I raised both hands. His sale. His decision. He negotiated for several minutes and accepted an amount $20 below their agreement. After the buyer left, Evan transferred the money toward the contractor deposit. He also moved almost everything from his personal checking account. We were still short. He sat at the kitchen table with his phone and stared at the remaining amount. "I can ask Rachel," he said. "No." His head snapped up. Then I corrected myself. That sounded like an order. "A little. I do not think borrowing from your sister changes the pattern. But it is your choice." He considered it. "What would you do?" It was the question I had been waiting for all day, and for once, I did not answer immediately. "I would call your manager and ask whether any approved expenses are waiting for reimbursement." He blinked. "I have mileage from last month." "How much?" "I don't know." "Check." He opened his work email. There was an approved reimbursement scheduled for the following week. It still would not arrive by morning, but his company allowed employees to request expedited payment under certain conditions. He sent the request. Then we waited. The hotel refund did not arrive overnight. The ticket did not sell. At 8:30 the next morning, his manager approved the expedited reimbursement. The money reached his account shortly after 9. At 9:43, Evan paid the rest of Marco's deposit. He forwarded me the confirmation without adding a message. I was at my desk reviewing timesheets when it arrived. My first response was relief. My second was the urge to check every figure myself. I opened the account. Then I closed it. The payment confirmation was enough. The repair started Monday morning. When Marco's crew opened the ground beside the house, the damaged section looked worse than it had on the inspection video. Roots had spread along the joint, and the pipe had shifted farther than expected. The final cost increased. Not dramatically, but enough to make my chest tighten when Marco explained it. My emergency account could have covered the difference easily. I did not offer it immediately. Evan did not ask. He stood beside me in the driveway and reviewed the updated estimate himself. "We can use part of my next paycheck," he said. "That payment also covers the mortgage." "I know. We can reduce discretionary transfers next month." "For both of us?" I looked at him. There it was. A test I had not expected. My instinct was to say the extra cost existed because of his decision, so only his spending should be reduced. But the additional repair cost was not caused by the trip. It was caused by damage neither of us had known about. "Yes," I said, "for both of us." He nodded. I transferred enough from the emergency account to complete the repair. That did not erase the difference between the two expenses. The original repair was a shared emergency. The shortfall created by his trip had been his responsibility. The additional damage belonged to both of us. For years, I had treated fairness like a simple calculation. Whoever caused a problem should pay for it. Marriage was less convenient. Sometimes responsibility was clear. Sometimes it was shared. The important thing was not pretending those situations were the same. The ticket sold 6 days later. Evan recovered less than he had paid after the applicable fees. The hotel refund arrived around the same time. The airline credit remained in his name, reduced by the change fee. He did not attend the match. He watched part of it alone at home while I was visiting my sister. I learned that because he told me, not because I checked. He said he turned it off before the end. I did not ask whether that was because he felt guilty or because watching hurt too much. He did not owe me a performance of regret. He owed me changed behavior. 2 weeks after the repair, we sat at the kitchen table with separate laptops. We created a bills account funded by automatic transfers from both paychecks. The amount covered the mortgage, utilities, insurance, groceries, household maintenance, and a monthly contribution toward emergency savings. The emergency savings moved into an account without debit cards. Both of us received alerts for withdrawals and transfers. We agreed on equal personal spending amounts each month. That part was harder for me than I expected. What if you save yours for something expensive? I asked. That would be the point. What if I think it is a bad purchase? You can think it is bad, and say so? Once. I stared at him. Once? You can tell me what you think. You cannot keep arguing until I agree. That sounds very specific. It is. I wanted to defend myself. Instead, I wrote it down. The same rule applied to him. If I used my personal money on something he considered unnecessary, he could express his opinion once. Anything above our agreed threshold from shared funds required a conversation and 2 yeses. A no did not require courtroom evidence, but it also did not give either person the right to spend the money secretly. We scheduled 1 meeting each month to review the accounts. Not every Sunday, not every purchase. Once a month, unless something urgent happened. Evan took responsibility for utilities and insurance. I kept the mortgage and household maintenance records. The first time he nearly missed the insurance payment, I saw the reminder email and said nothing for 3 hours. Those were 3 of the longest hours of our marriage. He paid it before the deadline. I did not congratulate him. He did not thank me for staying quiet. That was what ordinary responsibility looked like when nobody needed credit for it. Linda invited us to dinner the following month. The invitation came through Evan. What did you tell her? I asked. That I would ask you. I waited. And that you might not be ready. That mattered. The old Evan would have told Linda we were busy, and later asked me to protect him from her disappointment. I am not ready, I said. He nodded. I figured. Are you going? Yes. I felt a flash of irritation. Part of me wanted him to reject every invitation until Linda apologized correctly and completely. Then I remembered that boundaries were not the same as punishment. She is your mother, I said. She is. He went alone. He returned less than an hour later, carrying the container of food Linda had packed for him. That was fast, I said. He put the container in the refrigerator. She said she hoped we had both learned something from the misunderstanding. I waited. I told her it was not a misunderstanding. What did she say? That every marriage has 2 sides. She is not wrong. No, she was using it to avoid my side. I leaned against the counter. So you left? I told her I would come back when she could talk about what I did without using your behavior to soften it. I searched his face for evidence that he wanted praise. Maybe he did. He did not ask for it. Thank you for telling her, I said. He nodded. That was all. The repair left a pale strip of new concrete beside the house. For several weeks, the color did not match the older driveway. Every time I saw it, I remembered the failed deposit, the ticket, and Linda's voice asking whether I was satisfied. I was not satisfied. Satisfaction belonged to cleaner endings. Evan had lost money, missed the match, and damaged his relationship with his mother. I had been publicly proven right about one decision, then forced to admit how often I used being right to control smaller ones. Neither of us won. That was probably why the marriage had a chance. About 3 months later, Evan and I were standing beside the repaired section while he moved the trash bins. He looked down at the new concrete. Do you think the account system is working? Yes. Do you think it is saving us? I knew what he meant. I considered giving him the reassuring answer. Instead, I said, accounts cannot save a marriage. He leaned against one of the bins. What can they do? They can remove some hiding places. He nodded slowly. For both of us. For both of us. The new system could stop him from pretending he did not know where the money went. It could stop me from treating access to information as ownership of every decision. It could not make him honest. It could not make me trust him. Those were choices we had to keep making after the balances were correct. Our marriage continued. Not because he canceled the trip. Not because I forgave him after one apology. It continued because he accepted that my flaws did not excuse his betrayal, and I accepted that his betrayal did not make my control healthy. We still argued about money. The difference was that he no longer invited his mother into the argument, and I no longer believed fear gave me the deciding vote. So what would have been harder for you to forgive, the money he spent, or the fact that he enjoyed letting his family blame his wife?